All right, people. Review of the week time. I say review. We're going to spend so much time previewing Parker versus Wardley, aren't we? We're going to spend a lot of time doing this. But I think we'll only touch on it briefly because that's really for the prediction video that we're going to get later on this evening. Before we talk about some of the latest news or news that's happened over the last 7 days, and we preview the fights that happened on Friday and talk about Danny Garcia's last fight last night, have a quick look there on screen. Not asking for you to subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping you do it anyway. But DAZN, who we all know, has recently started his own YouTube channel. I think I remember him actually mentioning that to me at Ade's live show back in September. And I've met Dev in person a good few times, and I consider him a mate now at this point. He's been good to me, he's been cool to me, and I'd like to think I've been the same. So go over, give his channel a like, give it a follow. I'm subscribed to it, and Dev brings such a good insight because he's very passionate about boxing, as we all are, but he just knows so much. And really, when I sit and talk to him about how he goes about presenting, the amount that I pick up off him that I never even think, it's like, oh my god, about like even the managers and just that's crazy. Just kind of how to get reaction and stuff like that. It's incredible, really. So great insight over there. I would recommend you go over and give it a subscribe. Let's talk about Friday night. Let's talk about Friday night at the York Hall. That just sounds right, doesn't it? Friday night at the York Hall, which is, in terms of small hall shows, it may be one of the meccas of boxing in terms of small hall arenas, because the York Hall is absolutely legendary. It's a fantastic venue. It's hosted world title fights. It's actually hosted some amateur fights. I think Joe Joyce, did he fight Usyk in the York Hall? In the amateurs. It's done a lot. The York Hall is an amazing place, and it hosted some good fights on Friday night. I only seen 3 of them. I seen Jimmy Sains against Troy Coleman. He looked good. I haven't really seen that much of Jimmy Sains now, I have to say, to be honest with you, but from what I seen in there, and he fights at 160 pounds, decent shout. One fight that it wasn't the fight that surprised me. It was the fighter in it who actually really surprised me. Really did. Was Shannon Ryan versus Chloe Watson. I've seen a good few of Shannon Ryan's pro fights. I think she was, last I checked, managed by 258. She's been fighting on Matchroom shows for a while now. I believe she lost, was it to Jasmine? I'm probably going to get the name wrong. No, it was Emma Dolan. She actually beat Jasmine Zapakina. I think she's Polish, that fighter. She's actually quite a good fighter, to be fair. She's a European champion. But she lost to Emma Dolan a couple of fights back. And I have to say, right, Shannon Ryan never remotely impressed me until this fight. I always thought Shannon Ryan looked very basic, to say the least. But apparently she's changed up trainers, and it looked like a completely different fighter in there. She really looked good. It ended on a technical decision. Very bad clash of heads. Chloe Watson's eye horrifically swollen. You couldn't have let her continue with that, no way. And it was very clearly an accidental clash of heads. There was no malice in there whatsoever. Goes to the scorecards. Correctly, Shannon Ryan didn't lose barely a minute of any of those first 4 rounds. So she picks up the win. And then there was the main event, which was Kieran Conway versus George Liddard. Now, Kieran Conway is a known quantity. I've seen many of Kieran Conway's pro fights. In fact, going back to the Ted Cheeseman fight, I remember that might have been the first real fight I've seen Kieran Conway in. A lot of people felt he was very unlucky in that fight. He obviously got wins, here and there at the domestic scene. Fought on one of Canelo's. I think that was definitely one of Canelo's undercards. Yeah, it was an A&T Stadium. Came up short in that fight, but then came back, fought the likes of James Metcalf. Whatever happened to James Metcalf? I haven't seen him in a long time. Good fighter James Metcalf is. What happened to him? Yeah, he hasn't fought since Dennis Hogan. Well, he has fought, but he's not fought in really a meaningful fight. That's crazy. Because, yeah, James Metcalf was, doing really well. He was with Eddie Hearn, I think, as well. That's crazy. Just chucking that out there. Amo Williams. So every time he stepped up, he's lost. But he's had some really good performances in between. He really has. And I actually thought he'd be a little bit too much for George Liddard, who, as good as he looked on Friday, he's never really, for me, really set the world alight, really, until Friday. Boy, did he look good in there on Friday night. He really did. Really beat up Kieran Conway, had him down in round 9, and becomes the first man to stop Kieran Conway. Amo Williams couldn't even do that. He is now, I think he's British champion and Commonwealth champion, is he? Yeah, British and Commonwealth champion. George Liddard just arrived, I have to say, because honestly, that was very impressive. From Billericay in Essex. And unlike Johnny Fisher, George Littard is not an Essex gimmick. He's actually a good fighter. So a lot of good stuff there. Really impressed. Danny Garcia got a knockout win last night in the Barclays Centre. That was his final fight, apparently. It's his final outing, or his final fight at the Barclays Centre. Whether it's his final fight or not remains to be seen. But yeah, it was a devastating win with the left hook. Danny Garcia has always been a great counterpuncher with that left hook. Danny Garcia is a prime example of someone who, how would I explain it? He hits hard, but he's not the most sophisticated. Like, Danny Garcia is very flat-footed, if you've ever seen him in the ring. Very flat-footed. So he's always someone who's ready to throw a hard shot, but it's landing it. That's the problem with Danny Garcia. That's why he's got, I think, a 50% knockout ratio, even though he hits a lot harder. But, that is the way that is. Now, on Friday afternoon, we had a press conference for Ben Whittaker being announced as a Matchroom fighter. His trainer, Andy Lee, has high expectations. He says the following about Ben. This is a step in Ben's development and it'll be a good win. He'll become one of the best light heavyweight prospects this country has ever produced. So that comes after the fact that it was announced that Ben Whittaker would be making his Matchroom debut. And to be honest with you, I should really have probably kept the guy's box rec opened here, because Ben Whittaker had the red carpet rolled out for this debut at Matchroom, or this announcement at Matchroom. It was a big announcement. Big, they did that, forget, was Jerry Maguire, that movie? I never actually seen that movie, believe it or not. I've noticed seeing with Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr., but I've never actually sat down and seen it. But I know the whole ins and outs. They did a big press conference. See, this is the thing, right? And I've said this about the way Eddie Hearn has a way of doing things, right? This right here, right? Ben Whittaker being announced as one of the best prospects this country ever produced. He's a world level. He's this and he's that and he's all these superlatives. And you go and you chuck him in there with a guy no one's ever heard of, who lost his pro debut, has barely ever fought outside of Germany, and really looks like one of those Anthony Yarde opponents who has a good record on the surface but shouldn't be in the ring with the likes of Ben Whittaker. That's really what you've done. And I think a lot of boxing fans see through that. I think the way Eddie Hearn has been doing things lately with some of his fighters, where he's been hyping them up, because Eddie Hearn has always been that. He's always been good at that. But I think in the past, he's had fighters like Anthony Joshua. Hype Anthony Joshua up to the hill. It's, you could hype him up all you want. Everyone loved him. Everyone would just believe everything you'd say about Anthony Joshua because he was that. He was just natural. It was a natural with Anthony Joshua. Similar sort of with Conor Benn. These people just had the following, right? And you could see, with Ben not so much, but with Anthony Joshua, you could see the talent. You could see how Ben, if he was developed rightly, and I think that's why they did a real big detour with the Chris Eubank Jr. fight, even 3 years ago when they tried to do it. But you can see what's going on. You can see what's good here. When Eddie Hearn is going around saying that people like Johnny Fisher, who knock out Alan Babbage, are a world-level prospect, but, we can't fight Moses Atelma. So what? World-level prospect, can't fight Moses Atelma, gets chinned in 5 rounds by Dave Allen. Yeah, you'll forgive me if we start to question our belief in some of the things you're saying. And I think that's right here with this Ben Whittaker fight. At the end of the day, right, I don't mind. He's a prospect, right? But if you're going to tell us that, he's this, he's all these superlatives, what's wrong with Dan Aziz? What's wrong with Craig Richards? What's wrong with... I know you can't do this because he's fighting Bradley Reed this weekend, or not... Yeah, next weekend. He's fighting Bradley Reed in Manchester next weekend, Lyndon Arthur, and Bradley Stingray as well. I don't understand why you couldn't, go down that road, because you just beat Liam Cameron and you want to step him up. Okay, that's a step up. It's just... I don't get this. So, yeah, for me, I think Ben Whittaker has potential. I definitely think that. I certainly do believe he does have potential. But I think, I don't know, this isn't filling me with confidence that maybe the team around him have as much faith as they think, going with this level of opponent. But let's wait and see. Oleksandr Usyk says he will not fight Moses Atelma and intends to fight until he's 41 years old. I spoke about this in a recent video, and I hope that's just Oleksandr Usyk being Oleksandr Usyk, as he can often be, where he just decides to, say things for maybe comedic effect and say this. And you can definitely hint that there's an element of that in what he's saying about Atelma, saying, Atelma doesn't punch a granddad and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. You can kind of tell, okay, he's not being too serious there. I hope Oleksandr Usyk sticks to his original saying of having 2 more fights and we're done. And that was before he fought Dubois, mind you. So 1 more fight, 1 and done. I think that's the road he needs to go down. I think that Oleksandr Usyk is a tremendous fighter. He'll go down as one of the greatest of all time. No doubt in my mind about that. Not just at heavyweight, just in general. But 41, I would hate for people to, as I said in that video, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, you've the likes of Simon Jordan. And I do enjoy listening to Simon Jordan on most things, in particular football. But when it comes to Usyk, it's never a case of Usyk is that good. It's a case of, well, the other fighters just aren't that good. You know, because how can Fury lose to Oleksandr Usyk? Well, he mustn't be as good as we thought. How can AJ lose to Oleksandr? Well, maybe Oleksandr Usyk is that good. Do you ever think of that? And if he sticks around until 41, well then, what if he does lose to an Adrian Kabayel? And then you'll be like, oh, well, you know, I mean, if he lost to Adrian, how good could he really have been? Muhammad Ali lost to Leon Spinks. I know he avenged it, but he still lost to Leon Spinks, for God's sakes. So there you go. So I hope Oleksandr Usyk sticks to his goal. I hope he fights the winner of Parker Wardley. And speaking of next weekend, we were meant to have the boxer first show on the BBC next weekend. But that's apparently not going to happen now until November the 29th. It's going to clash. He went from clashing with one show to clashing with another. Ain't that something? But no, Jamie TKV Fraser Clark has now been rearranged. It's been rescheduled for November the 29th. Still in Derby following an injury to Jamie TKV. Wasn't it been that serious that you only have to push it back a month? You know? And we've seen literally no, anything, no press conferences, no real anything for this fight. So, look, it could very well be what they're reporting, that Jamie TKV did suffer an injury. But, you know, at the end of the day, what fight were you really more looking forward to, genuinely speaking? And still on November the 29th, although Ben Whittaker's in there with a bit of a no-hoper, you still be looking more forward to seeing him than you would be to that fight. No disrespect to either Clark or TKV, but it's not a fight that really, you know, gets you thinking, oh, this is going to be a showstopper. It's going to be a crowd stealer. It's not really going to be either of them, because both guys are not exactly the most entertaining, to say the least. They've had entertaining moments in fights, actually moments in fights that they've lost, but you get what I mean. So yeah, that's the situation with Ben Shalom, boxer. It just gets worse, doesn't it, for them? It really does. Now, earlier in the week, it was announced that I was looking at Fabio Wardley's name there. It was announced that Moses Itauma was going to be mandated to face Kubrat Pulev. Or rather, Kubrat Pulev was going to be mandated to face Moses Itauma for the WBA regular heavyweight title, for what it's worth. It's a real achievement winning that. But apparently that's not going to happen. And now Kubrat Pulev is going to defend his world title against Murat Gassiev on December the 12th in Dubai. Murat Gassiev, former unified cruiserweight champion, hasn't really set the world alight at heavyweight since he moved up many years ago. Don't know, is he still trained by Abel Sanchez? I know he was trained for quite a good portion of his career by Abel Sanchez. I'm not sure if he still is, but yeah, look, Gassiev, I liked Gassiev as a cruiserweight, very crude, but I always did enjoy watching him. He was entertaining, if nothing else. A big puncher, certainly a cruiserweight, but I don't know. I can't really see that one being the Thriller of Manila or anything like that, just in my opinion. A fight that I could potentially see being extremely entertaining is Derek Chisora versus Jarrell Miller. So we're hearing a lot of names being mentioned for Derek Chisora, mainly the likes of Zhilei Zhang, and now Jarrell Miller's name is being thrown into the hat. Now, Miller has had a fairly rubbish time of it as of late. And he's one of those fighters who, to be honest with you, you really don't feel too sorry for when you see fights falling by the wayside for him because of, you know, the track record that he has. We all know what I'm alluding to. But apparently he is in line to face Derek Chisora on that big show on December the 13th, which last I checked was going to be pay-per-view. Again, right, if you have Chisora versus Miller or Chisora Zhang, I don't care if Itauma fights Hughie Fury or he fights Michael Hunter. Neither of those guys are bigger fights than either of those two. Now, I love the fight, Miller versus Chisora. I think it'd be really entertaining. It would be non-stop action, non-stop punches, to be honest, which it would be absolutely, it would be pretty damn epic, to be honest with you. It really will. It'd be pretty damn epic, that fight now, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know what the situation is now with Atelma, because it was looking that we might get Pulev. Now we don't know. And look, at the end of the day, you've got roughly 2 months, probably a bit less. You've got probably roughly 7 weeks now between now and then. So you got to get the show on the road. You got to get an opponent announced, certainly, you would think anyway. So that's the situation with Derek Chisora, Moses Atelma as well. We don't know what's going on with them. We're seeing there's not really a great deal much else now, to be 100% honest with you. I think that's pretty much the majority. And we'll talk very briefly to end it, of Joseph Parker versus Fabio Wardley. You know, I've given my 2 cents on it. I've done a couple of videos that have gone down pretty well, actually, I have to say. I still think this fight is going to be very, very good. It's going to be very entertaining. I certainly myself am really looking forward to it. I actually can't wait for this fight. I will be doing a live watch along, of course, and I'll be saying that till I'm blue in the face this week, just so you know, because I want to hopefully we can get some good numbers. I'm bringing this back home to Ireland. That's what the road mic's in. I'm bringing that back to Ireland with me, because we're going home this weekend. We are going to do a live watch along on Saturday night. It's going to be epic. We're going to have good fun doing it. I love the live watch alongs. I really, truly do. And yeah, I think this fight is going to be epic. I was looking at the undercard. The undercard is interesting, to say the least. But I'll do more of that. I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself right on here in the next video as well. So I'll talk more about that in the prediction video, which will go out probably around 6, 7 this evening. Well, I say this evening. It's 20 past 7 now on a Sunday. But you know what I mean. I hope you enjoyed it. And for everyone listening, I hope you all have a great week this week. I hope we all get some good news. We all need it. We really do. We all need some good news this week. I hope someone at the very least gets it. And for now, people, I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. And people, until next time, I'll leave it there. Peace.